Thanks.
Hi, so I'm just going to introduce myself first of all. My name is Helen Rutherford, and I'm from northeast of England, and I am the founder of Emotional Respite Disability Counselling Service. But first of all, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about who I am and why I became a therapist, because I think that's really important to kind of know my background a little bit. So first of all, I just want to tell you about myself personally. I've got a condition called spinal muscular atrophy, and was when I was 18 months old, and I've always been a wheelchair user my entire life. And this is a degenerative condition which has really obviously impacted my life a great deal in terms of my physical limitations and my ability to do things. So when growing up, I found it really difficult and quite isolating, because I was one of the first people with my level of disability to go through mainstream education. So that was incredibly challenging, but obviously it did pave the way for others, which is wonderful. But I found it a very isolating experience growing up, and I found that really challenging, that I didn't have a lot of people to talk to about how I felt. And so this really sparked an interest in me kind of like always being around people, trying to like engage and talk with people about my experiences. And I became a very good listener to others, because I was actually really shy when I was growing up and quite introverted. Um, and so what happened really was is that as I got older, as a disabled person, you're often kind of shoehorned into being told what to do in terms of what you can do. So I was told I should do a business degree because I could sit at a desk. And so that's what I did first of all, but I didn't really enjoy it or like it. So when I actually finished that degree, I decided to do a night class in counselling, just out of interest, and it was something that just really helped my confidence. It really helped me explore a lot of my own personal development, and a lot of the things that I'd gone through. And at that time, I was just about to go through some major surgery myself, and I had a really big life change for about 7 years in my 20s, when I was incredibly ill from extensive back surgery from scoliosis that I developed. And during that time, it was very reflective times where basically I decided that I really just wanted to kind of reboot my life and really go into a career that I thought would be really valuable and helpful to other people who were maybe going through similar situations and similar struggles to myself. So I then decided to go and do my full degree in counselling at the age of 29. And I've studied for about 8 years in total, and I've developed obviously my service, but I've become in 2012, and I actually became a supervisor, so I could help other therapists as well develop their own services and practice, and obviously reflect about how to make like therapy services more inclusive. And because one thing I noticed, especially being a practitioner, is once I was a qualified therapist, there was so many barriers to getting into employment for myself, because there was like the normal kind of barriers, such as not being able to get into a building, for example. So I couldn't work for a company because I literally couldn't get in the building, or they just didn't have the facilities for me to be there, like a disabled toilet, for example. And so I found all of these barriers just to even get into work myself. And this is when I decided, after working in lots of different settings. I mean, I did try out a lot of places. I worked in GP surgery, I've worked in primary school, I've worked at Newcastle University. So and I actually eventually started to work in 2016 for Babylon Health. This is a global organization, a private healthcare organization that delivers therapy like all over the world. And so I got in touch with them just to say, I really want to make services accessible. I want people to be able to be able to access therapy on their own terms from home, when they might not feel able to physically go to an appointment. Or and reflecting on, okay, well, what are the barriers to actually accessing therapy? And I identified many barriers, including like not only were there like the physical barriers, but there were also barriers in terms of the knowledge that the therapist would have, because in therapy you need training, disability isn't really part of diversity training at all. So if you went to see a therapist at your GP surgery, you would not get a therapist who understood disability issues. They wouldn't understand ableism, for example. They wouldn't understand what inspiration porn is. They wouldn't understand kind of the nuances that living with a disability like really creates, and the impact that that has on you. So I really was started to think about, okay, well, what can I do to try and make it easier to promote psychological services for all, because I was really aware that I was getting feedback when I was talking to clients that they were often seeing therapists where they had to keep explaining themselves over and over again to try and get the therapist to understand their like worldview, and so this was taking up all of their therapy time, and it wasn't really getting to the issues that they were going to therapy for. So I was interested when people came to me and they were like, oh, finally somebody who just gets it. You've got that lived experience, and obviously I do have like an understanding of what it's like to live with a disability and an illness throughout my life, and to really an extreme level at times. So I thought, well, this is something that I think is really important to try and bring to people in terms of gathering other therapists with disabilities. And so because I was like, okay, I can't do this by myself. So what I wanted to do over the years is what I've been trying to do is collate as many different contacts and connections with other therapists who have really kind of challenged themselves to become therapists themselves with their own health conditions. And I created a Facebook group for disability counsellors. And so over the years, I've got about 450 members, I believe, about now. So this was a way of me being able to connect with people who I thought, okay, we can start bringing together a service where we can actually give people a service where there's lived experience of disability, where the therapists have this knowledge and understanding that is going to underpin the therapeutic relationship, because fundamentally the relationship is the most important thing in therapy. And if you don't feel like you can relate to your therapist or you can't connect with them, then this is going to make the work much harder. And so what I've managed to achieve is I've managed to bring together a group of therapists at the moment where we've all got different like conditions. We've got invisible and visible disabilities. So I've got a therapist who has cerebral palsy, for example, another with spinal cord injury, another with like chronic pain and endometriosis. So we've got kind of a scope of like lived experiences of the challenges that people face. And I think one of the other things that I really wanted to address within my service was the fact that like another element was, well, when you're disabled, you're often don't have the opportunity for privacy. And obviously, like developing an online service and working in different mediums, it was a way for me to be able to give people autonomy and empower them so that they could take control of their own therapy. So they weren't relying on somebody to help them get to their appointment. They weren't particularly like relying on anybody else being in the room with them. And I think what was really important is that I was working in different mediums so that people who may have like speech and language problems could access the service as well, because that's something again that I don't think is really thought about in generic therapy services. So we work in email therapy as well as audio and video therapy, and it's all online, so this can be accessed anywhere in the UK at a time that suits you, because I know that obviously there's a lot of things that challenge people with disability and illness, so that there's certain parts of their day where they feel more capable of having a therapy session, and they can pick and choose when they want it, and we can be flexible around that. And I think what was really important is that obviously having different mediums, it did mean that if somebody wanted just to write an email, for example, and have email therapy just to create privacy for themselves, that they could do that. And actually it's a very powerful medium to work in, and I've had specific training, and I'm trained as an online therapist as well to deliver like therapies in different mediums. But it means that people could use assistive technologies as well to be able to access therapy. And this is something that I don't feel ever like advocated for in generic kind of like counselling services. And I think one of the things for me was I knew that there was other minority groups who were represented in therapy, such as like LGBTQ plus and BAME communities, and I think, okay, so why isn't disability represented in therapy? And so this is something that I've become really passionate about, to be able to bring together a service where I feel that the client can assume that we're going to get what they're going to come and tell us. You know, we're going to understand what their life experiences are. I'm not saying that we know how it feels for them, but I think we have a knowledge that is lacking with potentially with other therapists. And this is something that like I really challenge as well, because I think it's really important to try and create that awareness. We all have prejudices, we all have judgment, and I did my dissertation on even like the perception of what it would be like for individuals to see a disabled therapist, and actually kind of like recognizing that sometimes as individuals we are lionized, as it was a term, you know, where we're kind of put on a pedestal, and we're like we're made to be inspirational because of what we're doing, or we can be pitied. And sometimes I was actually thinking about the dynamics of how it impacted my work if I saw somebody who was able-bodied, and sometimes I think that was a really interesting part of my work. Was I had clients who would come into a session at a GP surgery and say, how can I speak to someone worse off than myself, would be one of the first things they said to me. And so I would be like, that's really interesting, you know, that's their view. But I'm challenging that and saying, well, I'm not coming to therapy. It was a kind of like a joke to try and kind of like level the playing field a little bit. And so they were like, okay, and then they start seeing you as a person. But I think it's interesting, just the kind of nuances and obviously the judgments that we all make. And I think it's really important to look at those within therapy, because it is going to impact on the relationship that you can create with somebody. And so I think what's just really important to me is for like a service to be available nationwide. Really, I really want to grow the service as I go along, but to really create something that is going to give people the opportunity to feel fully engaged with and understood. Mm-hmm.
No, that's brilliant. I was just writing the question for later on there, Helen.
Yeah, because yeah, so and so like basically, I think what's really important is to give people the opportunity to feel empowered, you know, to promote autonomy, because I think like one of the things that we're all kind of striving for is independence, you know, to live independently, to have our autonomy, to be empowered, and I think it's actually a really important part of the work that I do, is to actually promote that empowerment for individuals with disabilities, so that they know that they're going have a service that is going to champion them, you know, and really focus on their strengths and really build their confidence and self-esteem, and look at the things that are impacting on them. Because I think the difference between counselling people with disabilities to other conditions, say, I mean, I work in like general services, so I do work with people who just come and present with, say, depression or anxiety, but obviously you can kind of just like work with those, and you can maybe even limit the time that you work with those to teach clients about them, and to recognize what their coping mechanisms are, or to think about what's impacting on them, or what is the root cause of it. And I think that when working with disabilities, the problem is that you're impacted every day of your life by something. So it's not like working just with depression, it's not like working with just anxiety, and I think it's about recognizing that actually we have challenges every single day of our lives, and they can change from day to day. Our health can change, our like care needs can change, things that keep us safe and secure, and so just being aware that the support that sometimes that people need can be ongoing because of this. It's not something that goes away, or not something that you necessarily can just manage, because you don't know what's coming next. And so I really wanted to have like a flexible service as well for people to dip in and out of, like when they wanted to. And I mean, I'm hoping to have more conversations with social services around like promoting, including this in people's direct payment packages, because they have actually given me permission before to utilize direct payment packages for certain clients that I've had, which I think is fundamental when you're looking at somebody's holistic needs. It's about physical health, mental health, physical, it's just like, it's not just about one or the other. I mean, they're interlinked. And so I think what's really important is that it's not ignored, and that obviously services are made available, and I try and do it obviously at such as low cost as possible. But I'm a private practice at the moment, and I mean, it would be ideal if I could make this into a charity, or if I could like turn it into a community interest company. But that's something I want to try and like focus on for the future, really, because I know that there's demand for the service, and I think I mean I think just the fact that I only just started expanding the service in October, like and introducing new therapists, and already I've got 3 therapists on board, and again, like we're nearly fully booked at the moment. So again, I'm thinking about introducing somebody else, and I do have like a short list of people who I can like go to try and increase the service at speed if necessary, if it does to take off even more. But I just really want to like acknowledge how difficult the pandemic's been for disabled people as well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I know myself, like I've been isolating now for like over a year, and I'm at like the high risk category myself, and so I know how isolating and how challenging that's been, and the stresses and how scary it's been at times. And I think this has highlighted really 2 things. It's highlighted how disabled people often live their lives anyway, because they have all of these restrictions on them, and so some people are managing better than others, but there are some who are incredibly isolated, who the social element of going out and connecting with people has been incredibly important. And so I've been working with a lot of different people around just like supporting them at this really difficult time where there's so much uncertainty, which creates anxiety. So I think like even like more now than ever, like mental health services are really important.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions, Helen. Was, have you seen like well, I'm assuming you must have seen like a major increase in demand for services itself through the pandemic, with people, as you say, self-isolating and things like that. So has it been quite the amount of like people getting in touch?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, that's why I've literally increased my my service like 4-fold, since October. And I mean, I was working. I've been working like flat out throughout the pandemic. Like, I mean, everybody else seems to be on furlough, but I was working completely flat out throughout. And I mean, I was just getting too many inquiries, and I didn't want to turn people away, and that's when I was like, I felt like I don't have a choice now. I need to make emotional respite take off. It's not just going to be me in private practice anymore, because I really felt passionately that I didn't want to turn people away from the service. And I knew that I had a pool of people in my Facebook group that I'd kind of developed over the last 5 years, and connected with people, because I mean, originally I was like, it's a huge challenge to try and network with so many disabled therapists. It's like, how do you resource that, and how do you kind of create this network of people? But it's kind of organically kind of come into its own, which is great. And then it means I can literally pop a post in there and go, does anybody want to join Emotional Respite? Like, we've got demand at the minute. I could kind of vet the therapist, and we kind of go from there and have a conversation. And then I mean, the therapists that we've got at the minute have got such good feedback about the work that they're all doing, and it's just been like a really positive experience.
That's brilliant.
And
it was yourself originally, but then in October, that's when you started to expand and bring in the various therapists and things like that.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? So when someone contacts you, is it a case that they maybe speak to you first, and and do you obviously you're talking about therapists with different disabilities and things like that. Is it a case like when they first contact you, do you give them like you find out about them, find out like what disabilities or medical conditions they're living with, and then do you kind of recommend various therapists or yourself if it was someone you felt you would work
Yeah.
really well with? Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, normally people email me because often we're in session, so we can't always have a chat with them. And so what would happen is they would contact me. I would send out an assessment form if they were able to fill that in. But if they weren't, we would actually do that in a session with them, where we would discuss why they've booked the appointment, like what are the issues that they're going through at the minute, if they want to disclose information such as if they identify as having a disability or an illness, and we get like obviously like contact details of like their GP and also like an emergency contact, and so an assessment is always done to ensure client safety, especially working online. I think it's really important to recognize that, especially when working with people who are vulnerable, that it's really important to be able to really ensure that their care is met within the therapeutic relationship as well, and that they're not put at any risk, and also just to assess like any kind of like suicidal ideation as well. I think that's really important because some clients aren't suitable for online therapy if there is a high risk, but we would always work with them as well to assess a referral and what would be an appropriate way of working with them, and so then when they do come back with their referrals, not their referrals, their assessment forms, even if they have like any kind of like specific requests, we often say like, well, obviously what kind of medium do you want to work in, and I give them like the availability of the therapist, and they can have some input into what they're looking for, and if I can resource that, then I will.
Excellent. That sounds like it sounds like an absolutely brilliant service, Helen. I'm really, really impressed. Blew away, actually. It's excellent. When you were saying, I've got one more question, Helen. When you were saying that people can come back, so say they've been with your services for some time, and they've left, but they feel like they need that support again. Is it the case that you would like hold like the file and the previous, so they wouldn't have to start from the beginning? So do you know?
Yeah. So in therapy, what we do is when we contract with somebody, it's actually under our insurance that we keep our case notes for 7 years. So so basically, like, even if you've had like face-to-face sessions, you can always kind of look back at your notes and say what happened if you make notes. All of the therapists keep their own notes, but they're all ICO registered. We're all data controllers because we're all in private practice. So what happens is that you would I would always recommend going back to the same therapist who knows your history, who knows your story, and I mean, so I work with I mean, for example, I mean, I've worked with somebody for about 5 years now, but we did like really intensive work in the beginning, but they have like a lot of coping strategies now, where they feel quite like confident and comfortable about managing their mental health. But what they do is they just pop in once a month just to have a chat with me, and they have a single session, and we call these kind of booster sessions, and that's something where they just know that they've got that little bit of a safety net where they can come and talk to somebody. And I think what's also important to highlight as well, which is something I think is important for me to talk with social services about, is the service is also really a form of protection for vulnerable adults. It can be a way for people to be able to express if they are being abused or neglected in any way. And I think fundamentally that's really important in a community where there are a lot of vulnerable people.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Would you, so your website, your contact details, Helen, do you want to maybe read out your website or?
Yeah, so my website is www.emotionalrespite.co.uk, and we've got a Facebook page, and we've got Instagram, we've got Twitter. We're trying to cover them all. I've got LinkedIn. So often we do kind of like a post every day as well. just something, sometimes it's just a bit of food for thought, you know, just kind of like a post that might make you like reflect on your own processes. And when and obviously we're always there to have a conversation. I mean, people don't need to just like get in touch just to book an appointment if they just have like some concerns and they're just not sure if they want to engage in therapy, or they might like worry about the cost of therapy, because there is a cost, unfortunately, to our service at the moment. But like I say, if you are in receipt of direct payments, then that's a conversation that we can have with social services as well. And I can provide like a support letter around that as well, like saying that you've come, like expressing that you're are struggling with mental health, and we can discuss about formulating a letter that will support kind of your request to have that as part of your direct payments, and that has been successful in the past.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we finish there, Helen?
Yeah, I think I've covered mostly everything at the moment. Yeah, but yeah, it's been really lovely speaking to you today, and thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. It's been like an excellent meeting. Anyone watching, so are they okay to pop some, maybe if they've just got a really quick question, pop a comment, sorry, question in the comments. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah.
And when people do contact yourself, are you kind of like the first, are you first contact, or does it?
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, I get all the emails, and I'm managing it at the moment. But I mean, obviously, like I do have a team of care, like of carers as well, who might just like pick up my emails and just say like, oh, you've got something coming through. So basically, like if I like need any help with my admin, I mean, everything is literally responded to within 24 hours. I'm on it. So, but yeah, like, and obviously I can give that out as well to like my team of staff as well. So,
I was just thinking, because obviously I think people watching this, well, without being live, they've just had some kind of like FaceTime with you. I think it's good that for people watching, if they do want to reach out, that obviously you come across as a very nice person, things like that, and I think seeing you and hearing you talk will make a lot of people feel at ease as well to take that step.
Yeah.
So no, it's I think it's been a really brilliant meeting. Thank you very much. Yeah.
No problem at all.
Sorry.
Said no problem at all. It's been great.
So I think we will leave it there, and thanks again for taking your time to talk to us. I'll upload this afternoon, and as I mentioned, if people want to get in touch with you, you left them your details there, didn't you? So brilliant.
Yeah, no problem. And I mean, I can put it in the comments as well. I can put all of my details in. So if anybody wants to join, like follow like my Facebook group and things like that, then that's great.
Brilliant. Marvelous, Helen. Thank you very much.
Okay, you take care. Bye.